Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Honest Football Talk, where I, Thomas Llewellyn, give you guys my honest take on everything going on in the NFL world today. And I thought, what better way than to start this episode than to go over all the preseason games that just took place last week. As you guys know, we're now finally in the meat of it. We are finally in the preseason action. We got a lot of football games going on, and quite frankly, I'm really excited. I really enjoyed all the games that took place last week, and I thought, it'd be great to start this episode by going over some of those games and, seeing who performed well and who to look out for this week coming up. So the first game I wanted to go over was kind of a surprise if you guys caught it. This was the Bears and the Bills game where the Bears had won 33-6 against the Bills. Very surprising. There's a lot of anticipation for the Bills to still be as good as they were last year. And seeing that the Bears had the number one pick and they're destroying the Bills here, it's raising some eyebrows, I'd say, letting us know that there might be a lot more talent on the Bears than what we think. Now, of course, it is preseason, so, take it with a grain of salt in that regard, that, it's a lot of backups getting their time to shine, but I still think it's a promising sign to see the Bears, win by that amount, by such a large amount here. And this was the first game we actually got to see Caleb Williams play, the first overall pick for the Bears, and he did fairly well, I think. His total stat line was 4 for 7 for 95 yards. Apologize, the writing's a little small here on my tablet, but thought he did very well. Was very accurate, made great decisions with the ball. There was a great throw to DeAndre Swift for like a 42-yard reception. It's looking to be a great connection with Caleb Williams and players like DeAndre Swift. I think he's doing great, adapting well to the locker room. Haven't caught a lot of Hard Knocks, but I've seen some highlights where Caleb Williams has been clicking well with the team, I'd say, making a lot of great comments, looking like he's fitting in well and being a great leader for that team. So I think the Bears have a lot to look forward to going forward. I really liked everything that they showed off. Ian Wheeler, the one of the backup running backs, had 2 touchdowns against the Bills. So I think even the Bears running game is going to be highly efficient with DeAndre Swift leading the backfield, and you still got Khalil Herbert there. It's going to be really interesting to see how that team progresses and continues to evolve here. We still got 2 more weeks. We'll see how much more the Bears can improve here before the regular season, but I am excited to see what they're going to do. And going on to the second preseason game I wanted to cover, of course, got to cover the Eagles. Looking at their game, they had won against the Baltimore Ravens 16-13. Now, this was kind of a struggle, low-scoring game, of course. A lot of good defense. One of the big highlights I wanted to point out was Jeremiah Trotter Jr. As you guys know, the Eagles had drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the son of Jeremiah Trotter, a Eagles Hall of Famer. He's famous for bringing down the axe. It's a great little celebration that Jeremiah Trotter used to do every time he'd make a big play, and his son also does the same celebration. It's really cool, really awesome that the Eagles were able to draft him, and he's looking to be a steal for us. A very late round linebacker who's looking to probably end up becoming a starter probably halfway through the season. I see him getting a lot of starter reps, because one thing the Eagles have never been very strong in the linebacker position, but I feel we got a gem here in Jeremiah, and I pray that he becomes a big leader for our defense and really takes control. Just for the sake, just because his father was such a big part of the team, I'd love it if his son was able to kind of take the crown of that nature and become a big leader on the defense. But yeah, he had a great performance, had a lot of tackles in the game, and the Ravens, one of the players I wanted to highlight from the Ravens as well was Nate Wiggins. Did great in coverage against the Eagles, unfortunately. But yeah, he did amazing. He's looking like a steal for the Ravens as well, one of their draft picks, rookie for them, cornerback. Looked really good. And one other thing that I wanted to highlight from the Eagles-Ravens game is the kicking for the Eagles. For some reason, Jake Elliott was struggling, missing an extra point and a field goal in that game, but did get the ball back, kicked the game-winning field goal to end the game off of a crazy fumble at the very end of the fourth quarter for the Ravens. Really lucked out for us, and I'm glad that Jake was able to kick the game winner and kind of rebound himself. Hope he has a much better week this coming weekend, and we'll see going on from there. And the third game I wanted to cover was the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not as much surprise at the score, just because I know, the starters weren't in long. Both teams had their starters in, but they definitely weren't in for very long. Um, One thing that I thought was interesting is that the Chiefs wide receiver Marquise Brown, he's looking like he will miss some time after dislocating. I think it was his shoulder. The way they explained it, it was a very similar injury to what Tyreek had back in the day with the Chiefs, where he had missed. It looked like I think it was 4 games. So it's looking like he will miss some time. Might not be there at the very beginning of the season. I know people that really love fantasy football. This probably will impact your decision on where you're going to draft him. Just know that I think Hollywood Brown is still going to be a big part of the offense once he's finally back in and healthy. But it looks like it's just going to take a little bit longer than originally anticipated. So be on the lookout for that. Another thing I wanted to highlight here is some of the quarterback play in this game. Mac Jones went 9 for 11 for 98 yards, looked really good. Trevor Lawrence, he was only in for a drive. He went 3 for 4, 42 yards and a touchdown. Did great his opening drive. And then C.J. Beathard also, he only threw 50%, 7 of 14, 125 yards passing, but he did have a touchdown. So overall, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback room looking really good. I thought it was a really great move of them to get Mac Jones as a backup to Trevor Lawrence, just because if anything were to go wrong, we know that Trevor Lawrence had some injuries last year, so it's very smart, I think, for the Jaguars to get some insurance back there to, if they ever need. I think Mac Jones is a great spot type starter that can go in there and get a win or two if they needed to give Trevor Lawrence some rest to recover from some sort of injury. So really liking that quarterback room. I did see Carson Wentz. He's got his ups and downs. He went 4 for 4 for 26 yards, but I think he took a sack that was pretty not too great. But overall, with the quarterback room in Kansas City, we all know that it's going to be Patrick Mahomes and nobody else. But I would be interested to see if Carson Wentz was the backup and did have to come in for Patrick Mahomes and see what he would be able to do. And so far in the preseason, not too impressed, but you never know. Carson Wentz is the type of guy that he can make magic out of nothing, but at the same time, you'll be like gasping and pulling your hair out once he, makes some crazy fumble or crazy interception that, no other quarterback would ever do. If you ever listen to Pat McAfee, highly recommend. Look up some of his reactions to Carson Wentz when he was the Colts quarterback. So some great reactions from, they used to call him 2 sprains because he had 2 sprained ankles in one game and still went out there and performed. He's a very tough player, Carson Wentz is, but, it's been a rocky road for him ever since he's left the Eagles. And of course, being an Eagles fan, I am very curious to see how he does. Really hope that he ends up having a very successful career. Hope that sometime he gets another chance, whether it's a spot opportunity or something of that nature. Really hope that he's able to bounce back and prove that he belongs in the NFL. But yeah, no, it's an interesting story with Carson Wentz. But looking at both quarterback rooms for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Kansas City, I think they're both in a good place, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes. And then Jaguars, they have Trevor Lawrence, and they just re-signed him for big money. And I think both, as long as they stay healthy, both quarterbacks are going to end up having a big year for Kansas City and for Jacksonville. But yeah, that's basically all the preseason games that I really, really wanted to cover. Of course, there was a lot more. If there's anything you guys had seen stand out from the first game that you thought was interesting, let me know. Might cover it in the next episode. I'll make sure to look over some of these comments and see what you guys think. But yeah, going on into that, we'll go ahead and go into the NFL news for this week. There's some big news stories that I definitely wanted to cover before we go into the Week 2 preview. So the first story that I wanted to cover was the Patriots had just traded Matthew Judon to the Atlanta Falcons. This had just happened very, very recently. They traded him to Atlanta for a 2025 third-round pick. So they'll be getting a third-round pick the very next year for the Patriots, but they'll be losing out on Matthew Judon's production. Matthew Judon had 4 sacks last year before he was out for the rest of the season due to injury. So it's very, interesting how this whole situation's playing out. I think it's very important to pay attention to this situation as we watch Hassan Reddick as well. He's in in the process of trying to come back for the New York Jets. As we know, the Eagles had traded Hassan Reddick to the Jets for a conditional third-round pick. I sincerely doubt it's going to get upgraded from that third-round pick, considering everything going on with Hassan Reddick. So, but it's very, very interesting to see this whole situation play out. I'm curious to see how much money Matthew Judon is going to get. There is no deal in place as of right now, but I guarantee you that the Reddick camp is watching this, seeing how the Atlanta is going to handle this deal, and basically probably demand a very similar deal to match Hassan Reddick, as Matthew Judon is also a little older. He's 32, and while I believe Hassan Reddick is 30, so they're both in their 30s, and it makes sense that the teams don't want to pay these older players. They're afraid of the older you get, the more likely you are to get injured and stuff, even though they are phenomenal and are proven. They'd rather rely on their younger talent and hope that somebody young will break out and make it more worth it on their roster spot. But very, very curious to see what the Falcons end up paying Matthew Judon. We'll be paying attention to that, and I guarantee you that whatever that contract structure is, it's going to be very similar to how Hassan Reddick plays out for the rest of the year, because as badly as the Jets need defensive help after they lost Josh Huff to the Eagles, they definitely need defensive end help. So I got a feeling that they are definitely going to end up making peace with Hassan Reddick at some point, whether it's the very beginning of the year. It might not be till like week 2, but I do see a resolution coming from that. I sincerely doubt Hassan Reddick's going to sit out all year. It will be very interesting if no deal gets done, though, because I will be interested to see the body language between Hassan Reddick and coaches and other players and stuff if this ends up, becoming more of a problem going later into the season. But as of right now, I do think that Hassan's going to end up coming back, especially with this Matthew Judon thing going on. He's now got something to really compare his production and stats and situation to, basically. So I think it's going to help him in the long run get a deal done and end up making the deal with the Jets more worth it. So yeah, going on from there, the next story, very tragic for Viking fans. It's been rough if you've been paying attention lately. Jordan Addison just went down with an ankle injury, I believe. I believe it's not too serious from all the reports I'm seeing, but it's something to keep an eye on. But the main thing that I want to cover here is the Vikings' J.J. McCarthy to miss the 2024 season after a knee injury. Looks like J.J. McCarthy had a meniscus tear. At first, they were just looking to see if they could just go in and I believe clean is what they call it. I apologize, I'm not a doctor, but they clean the meniscus tear, and if they clean it, it's only like 4-week recovery time, where if they have to fully repair it, it's like you're out the whole season. It's a couple months at least. So looking at that, it looks like that after the surgery was done, they wouldn't know. Apparently, the doctor doesn't know until they actually open up the knee what they need to do. And when they actually looked into J.J. McCarthy's knee, they realized that they had to do the full procedure. So, unfortunately for the Minnesota Vikings, you will not be seeing J.J. this year, your first-round pick. It's very devastating for the Vikings because they did trade up to get him. And, it's going to be Sam Darnold's show. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings make another move for a quarterback just to have some depth on the roster. See a very similar situation to when the Vikings traded with the Eagles for Sam Bradford years ago when they lost their starter. I could see it happening again this time with Kenny Pickett. The Eagles have Kenny Pickett, who they don't really need. I think Tanner McKee is of a similar, if not better, than Kenny Pickett. So I could see the Vikings going after someone like that. Or another quarterback that is available in the market, like, say, Trey Lance for the Cowboys. There's still a lot of hype around him being a former first-round pick and not ever being able to get on the field and show why he was picked in the first round. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Very, very curious. We'll be keeping an eye on Minnesota to see if they make any crazy moves at quarterback, but expect to move at quarterback at some time before the season starts, because I've got a feeling they're going to want to add some depth there regardless with JJ going out. So that's the story with Minnesota. And going on from there, the last bit of NFL news I wanted to cover, it's very near and dear to my heart, is the retirement of Tavon Austin. Now, Tavon didn't have the most spectacular NFL career, but my goodness, was he a college legend. This guy had some of the most phenomenal one of the most biggest return specialists in college football ever. He played for West Virginia University. He was a former Mountaineer, as am I as well. That's part of the reason why it's so near and dear to my heart. I graduated from WVU with my bachelor's in psychology, and went to every home game while I was at the university. Made sure I got my student tickets, and that's some of my favorite experiences is going to those home games as a Mountaineer and watching some of those games. So it's of course I didn't go to school during the time that Tavon was there, unfortunately, but was a fan, got to watch a lot of his highlights, and watch him growing up with my dad. Me and him being big Mountaineer fans, it was a great time being able to see that. Had some great memories, and greatly appreciate Tavon for giving me those memories growing up, and just deepening my love for the Mountaineers, and really cherishing those memories. So thank you, Tavon. Appreciate everything you've done, and enjoy your retirement, brother. Going from there, I wanted to read a couple things, read some of his accomplishments. The undersized but dangerous triple threat as a receiver, runner, and returner. Tavon Austin totaled 1,361 yards rushing, 2,239 yards receiving, and 1,483 yards on kickoff return, plus 451 yards on punt return. Austin also scored 16 receiving touchdowns, 10 more on the ground, and 3 as a kickoff returner in the NFL. Austin had a brilliant college career at West Virginia, totaling 4,446 yards from scrimmage, 2,840 more yards on returns, and 40 touchdowns in 52 college games for the Mountaineers. So yeah, those are all of his stats from NFL and college. Some great numbers to put up. Gave some great memories as well. Thank you for everything, Tavon, and good luck on your next adventures. So yeah, going on from there, we'll go ahead and get into the preseason Week 2 preview. So there's a couple games here, of course, I want to highlight. There's a lot, of course, going into these games. I try to pick at least 3 games to highlight for the show, and we'll go from there. If there's anything crazy you guys see going on in the preseason Week 2, or anything you guys pick up that you'd like me to talk about in the next episode, be sure to share it. Make sure to, of course, read your comments, and make sure to include them in the show as well. So going on from there, the preseason Week 2 preview, the first game I wanted to look at is the Eagles versus the Patriots. The Eagles are on the road facing the Patriots. It's going to be a very, very interesting game, I think, mostly because I want to see how the Eagles handle if their starters, how much time a starter is going to get play time. I assume the Eagles want to test out the starters a little bit in the preseason, because they want to get a feel for this new Kellen Moore system. It's brand new offensive coordinator, so I feel like they're going to want to get some more like game action practice before they actually get into the game for Week 1. So I expect to see our starters sometime this preseason. We'll see if it's this week or next week, but well, I'm going from there. I'm also curious to see who's going to win the backup position. Is it going to be Kenny Pickett? Is it going to be Tanner McKee? This whole game might even decide whether or not we're going to trade Kenny Pickett to Minnesota, depending on how well he performs. So this might end up being a big, big game for Kenny. I'm excited to see how this goes. Everything I've been hearing is that the Eagles have been doing great for joint practices against the Patriots. Something tells me we're going to end up blowing them out. But if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If the Eagles don't win by 2 scores, I'll take the L on that. But I got a feeling that just how rough it's been for the Patriots lately, especially they keep losing their best players. They just lost one of their best defensive tackles, Barman, to blood clots, unfortunately, and then they just traded Matthew Judon, their best defensive end, for pennies on the dollar, it seems. At least in the Eagles' case, when we traded Hassan Reddick, we got somebody to replace him that is it's got some potential, some hope with it, where you don't see that as much with the Patriots, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. This is Gerard Mayo's first year as the head coach. We're seeing how his new system's being implemented and getting away from the Bill Belichick era. Going from there, the next game that I wanted to cover is the Los Angeles Rams versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Interesting that both LA teams are playing each other this week. No worry about home field advantage, right? They're both in LA. But yeah, going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If you guys had seen Stetson Bennett last week against the Cowboys, had 4 interceptions, but did end up pulling off the game-winning drive against them. So That is definitely something to be prideful for. Looking to see how much more they can, improve on that. Curious to see how much Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get playtime. He's now with the Rams. Curious to see how that goes. They also got Boston Scott, former Philadelphia Eagle. Fingers crossed for you, brother. Hope you make the roster. He's a great player, as well as a great Rocket League player. And also curious to see how the Chargers play out. Who's going to be their starting wide receiver core? They lost Keenan Allen. Is McConkley going to be the wide receiver one? Jason Palmer going to step up? He knows the offense the best. He's got the most connection with Justin Herbert. How much is he going to be involved? And then, of course, Quentin Johnson, their last year's first-round pick. How much is he going to be involved? Is he going to be wide receiver one? So I'm very curious to see how these two LA teams play against each other, how it's going to turn out. How much are the starters going to play? How much, are these backups going to impress and prove that they belong? But yeah, it'll definitely be a game to watch for. And going from there, the last game that I really want to cover, that I think is going to be great. It's the last game for Week 2. I believe it's the Sunday night game. The Packers versus the Broncos. Packers are on the road, taking the Broncos on at home. And I'm really curious about this game, mostly because of Bo Nix. Bo Nix is the Broncos' first-round quarterback that they took. He's replacing Russell Wilson, since they felt that Russell Wilson is a failed project. I'm curious to see how the new era works with Bo Nix. They've had him listed as the QB3 on their roster, but I think that's just something that Sean Payton likes to do to make his players kind of earn their way up to being the starter. But yeah, going from there, I got a feeling that Bo Nix will continue to either show why he should or shouldn't be the starter. We'll see how well he plays. So this game will definitely have some meaning in it, and definitely for who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. When it comes to the Packers, we don't even know if Jordan Love's going to play. With his contract, I sincerely doubt that there's any sort of quarterback competition with Green Bay. But I am curious to see the wide receivers, how much work these wide receivers are going to get. Who's going to be the true wide receiver one for Green Bay? Especially if you're a fantasy fan, you're not too sure. Everyone thought it was going to be Christian Watson. He did like nothing last year. Didn't really make a connection with Jordan Love. Jordan Love has more of a thing with Reed as one of his targets, as well as Romeo Doubs. Oh, excuse me. Just a lot more options, I'd say, for Green Bay, that they could just make somebody like great 1 week out of nowhere. So curious to see who's going to end up being the wide receiver one for Green Bay going forward. But that's something that will be answered as we continue to watch this preseason unfold. And yeah, I believe that's everything I got for this week, guys. I do want to make a little note here. I will be going on vacation next week, so there won't be an episode on August the 22nd. I'll be back on August the 29th, and we'll have an episode covering the last 2 weeks. We'll be going into the episode that I'll be recording will be the week one. Excuse me, if I could speak properly. It will be actually week one when I record, or when we release our next episode. So we'll be sure to cover what was left in the preseason, as well as start to anticipate what's going to be going on in the actual regular season. So hope everyone looks forward to that. Hope everyone has a great next 2 weeks. Enjoy the rest of these preseason games. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be sure to cover everything in our next episode when I get back from vacation. And yeah, that's everything I got, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Greatly appreciate every one of you guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you can. And yeah, we'll be back again in the next 2 weeks, guys. Take care. This is Honest Football Talk with Thomas Sloan, and I am signing off, guys. Take care. Have a good one.